大家好，我是今天的主持人 Cindy，非常欢迎大家来到今天的讲座。我呢也是北美初高中生家长资源分享群的组织者之一。每年10月是我们开始计划申请高含金量夏校和实习项目的黄金窗口。很多家庭都在考虑什么项目有含金量，并且适合我家孩子，不同年纪该如何规划，夏校文书要达到什么水平才能够被心仪的项目录取。今天呢，我们非常的荣幸的请到了3位资深导师啊。第一位是我们的 Demmy 老师，他是芝加哥大学的博士，有13年美本申请指导经验。他的学生不仅录取顶尖的 ISI、Iowa 写作营、Proms 等夏校项目，每年呢都有学生录取哈耶普斯马等等名校啊。在我们讲座的后半部分呢，我们还会邀请2位资深的文书老师啊，来给大家介绍夏校文书该怎么写。一位呢是 Kristie 老师，他毕业于哈佛和史密斯学院，拥有20年的文书指导经验。另一位呢叫 Lily 老师，来自于西海岸，他自己是 UCLA 的最高荣誉毕业生，专注于个性化的文书辅导。今天呢，我们的线上座谈呢会包含各类夏校和实习项目的类型，以及他们不同的对于大学申请的价值。顶尖大学如何看待夏季的活动？学生的真实案例以及夏校文书范例的解析。之后呢，我们还会介绍即将启动的夏校实习早申营，帮助孩子赢在起跑线。今晚我们的讲座分享干货满满，也欢迎大家在答疑时间呢积极提问。老师呢，到时候是讲英文，在老师每一个 slide 之后呢，我会给大家用中文给大家重点翻译，不是一字一句翻译。好，那接下来呢，我就讲一段英文介绍然后呢，我就让 Demmy 老师开始今天的分享。Hi everyone and welcome. I am your host Cindy. Tonight's webinar is about high value added summer programs, what they are, how they help students grow and prepare for college admissions, and how to apply strategically. We are joined by 3 amazing speakers. Demmy, he holds a PhD from University of Chicago with 13 years of college counseling experience, helped many students get into highly competitive summer programs and then top-tier colleges. Kristie, she graduated from Harvard and Smith College with 20 years of essay coaching experience. Lily, she's UCLA summa cum laude graduate, known for her unique and effective essay guidance. We will cover types of high-impact summer programs and their corresponding value in college admissions. What top colleges look for in summer activities, real student case studies and sample essays, an introduction to summer program early application camp. Let's dive in, Demmy.
Great. Thank you so much for the introduction. Let me make sure that I have.
I will stop sharing so you can share now.
Thank you. Okay, I'll share my screen right here. Great. And then hopefully I can go through the slideshow. All right. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Great.
Perfect.
Perfect. All right. Well, as you know, I've been introduced. I'm Demmy. I've been doing college consulting for about 13 years. So let's and move into the core of what we're doing today. So I have a quick agenda here. We're going to cover all of these 7 points, primarily as a background, sort of like contextualizing what the summer programs of high value are, the types of different summer programs that are offered, and how we get to that, as well as 4 case studies of real students of mine that have gone through the process and where they ended. So let's start off with a quick sort of like contextualization of what a high impact summer program is. These are really highly selective. The vast majority of them have acceptance rates that are similar or sometimes lower than an Ivy League or an Ivy League plus institution, right? So some of these have acceptance rates of 1%, lower than 1%. And so they are part of a very selective summer programs. Many of them are free, some of them you pay, but they are all generally considered very rigorous, very prestigious, and they play an important part, or they could play an important part in an application process because one, they can show that a student is able to go through a rigorous selection process. Um, and that can show a university that, wow, if this student was able to get into a program this selective, then, they trust the student in their ability to get into top institutions a little bit more. They're generally designed for rising 12th graders, sometimes for rising 11th graders, a few times rising 10th graders. So most of these summer programs are intended for upperclassmen. And so it's important to understand how we get to that, how a student can prepare themselves as younger students to be able to be competitive in the selection process. So really, one of the main things that they do is they add strength to an application. I mean, they can contribute to a student's overall story and narrative. They can show sharpness in their main interest, major wise, or maybe one of their main thematic interests. Like maybe they really care about leadership and they get into a very top summer program that focuses on leadership. It can do many, many different things. I mean, I think the summer programs serve multiple purposes. The main one being, again, that it's a rigorous selective process that if you go through it, then colleges feel reassured that you are competitive and that a student is has a place in a school that is selective. So some examples of these programs that I've mentioned just very, very broadly, RSI is like the quintessential high-level summer research program. This is at MIT. It's free. It's incredibly difficult to get into it. Students who normally do are very, very strong with a very strong background in research already, exceptional academics and extracurriculars overall. It's an exhaustive application process, and I think they do it on purpose. So RSI has many, many essays and a difficult application. It's due also very early. It's due in about 2 months. So this is due December 10th. So it's one of the earliest summer program applications. Is a tough one to do, but really there's no better research-based summer program, I think, for high school students in the world. Simmons is also a fantastic one in New York. Garcia, which is almost like the younger brother of the Simmons summer program. And then there are others like the Iowa Young Writers Workshop, which is a fantastic writing-based summer program. The three that we mentioned before are research-based, and then we have the Summer Humanities Institute, which is a history/philosophy/humanities general summer program. The Bank of America Student Leaders is a prime example of a leadership-based summer program, also with an incredible selectivity. I would say similar in selectivity to like RSI, right? So these are a very short list of some of the big summer programs that you can get into. There are not that many, to be honest. I would say I could probably count 20 something, but there are more than the ones that I have listed. So this is sort of like to get a broad idea of the summer programs that we're referring to when we're saying high impact summer programs. Generally, they're the ones that are really hard to get into, acceptance rate of 10% or lower, some of them free, some of them not, but always very rigorous and selective. So these are the programs that we're talking about across the board, research-based, and we'll talk about the different types of programs, but I just wanted to give that quick overview.
Yeah. Hey, Demmy, may I just give a
Yeah,
quick
of course,
highlights to the
please.
audience? Yeah, if you don't mind, go back to the previous slide.
Sure.
Yeah. 这里呢，就是有几个点哈，就是 Demmy 说呢，就是真正对大学的申请直接有影响的这个 program 呢，基本上也不超过20个。但是呢，这些 program 呢，主要是给高年级的学生，就英文当中叫做 upperclassmen，就是说你要么是马上要升12年级，要么马上就升11年级了。那么他们的录取率呢，是有可能比藤校都还要低啊。 那么，比如说他举例子，比如说 MIT 的这个 RSI，对吧？这个是属于一个 research program。Simmons Garcia 呢都是很有名的，给高中高年级学生的那个研究类科研下校。那么如果你的孩子爱好写作呢，这个 Iowa 的 Young Writers 或者是人文类的，就是斯坦福的 Humanity，那这个就是属于人文写作类的天花板级别的这个下校。那么如果孩子是喜欢做小领导，有社区影响力呢，那比如说这个 Bank America 的 Student Leaders，那就是一个非常好的 program 啊。那么接下去呢，他会跟大家分享一下不同的下校类型。那么你在低年级的时候可以做什么样的事情为将来高年级能够真正申请到这些极高含金量的下校呢做好准备。Demmy?
Thank you. Okay, so what do applicants to these high impact summer programs look like? Generally speaking, they are academically really strong students who have the highest possible GPA in or close to the highest possible GPA in their school. So, I mean, it's difficult for me to say a number because as it is true in the college application process, it is also true in the summer program application class process that they will judge students based on the context of their school, right? So if the school has a maximum GPA, or most people, the average is a 3.3 unweighted, and the very highest person has a 3.9, then a 3.9 will be strong. But at places where the average GPA is a 3.9, then you might need a 4.0, right? So one good way to think about it is if the student is pursuing the highest level of rigor available to them, so taking the most difficult courses, the most rigorous courses that are available to them, and getting the highest possible grades is normally, as it is true for college applications at the very top level, what these programs are looking for. So that you have stellar grades and rigor within the context of your school. Sometimes the summer programs will require or prefer for students to have evidence of standardized testing. So a strong SAT score or a PSAT score can be helpful as well to make sure that you're proving that you have the ability to score high in these programs. So it is my recommendation to, even for underclassmen, ninth graders, 10th graders, to if not take an SAT, you could take a PSAT and use that sometimes as a supplemental for summer program applications. Recommendations, many of them, most of them will require one or two letters of recommendation from teachers. This, as it is again in the process of applying to college, it's an important way that the reviewers can see the student from the perspective of the classroom. Who are they? Are they intellectually curious? Are they driven? Are they empathetic? Do they care about others, right? So these summer programs, even though they are academic, they also, almost as a mini college experience, want to make sure that they're accepting people who are good people. So, this allows to give more context of who the student is within the classroom and also as a person. Extracurricularly, we want to make sure that the students align with the program focus, right? So there is a connection to what we're doing. If we're applying to, the Bank of America Leadership Summer Program, and we have a student with a 4.0, the best SAT scores, but all they've done is take a lot of AP tests and do a research project. Are they the right fit for the Bank of America Leader Summer Program? No. The Bank of America Leadership Summer Program is likely going to look for somebody who has demonstrated impact as a leader, as a community person. So you want to make sure that you're aiming for the right summer programs. And usually that means that, the area of focus aligns with the student's background. I do recommend that every student has a little bit of many of these areas, right? So I think a student is incomplete without a service component, a community impact component. But you want to make sure that you're aiming for the right summer programs, right? Sometimes a lot of these applications may feel, the same for RSI. If it's a student that, has passed the bill through, with the state, and they have a nonprofit that has done a lot of impact, and they wrote a workbook that has been implemented into a school district, will they have a shot at RSI? Probably not, because they didn't build that research-based background, right? So make sure that you know more or less extracurricularly how you're aligning to that. So the essays are a very, very important part of the process. They reflect genuine passion, maturity, and curiosity. This is not about, showcasing the resume. This is the opportunity for the student to show how they think about the world, how they think about the prompts, and how they approach them, right? So the essays end up being a key component that shows and differentiates students from one another. And I mean, what I will say, if you look at this top applicant high impact summer program list, you will see that this looks very similar to what somebody will say, what do you need to apply to college? And this is one of the things that is important about this is that the great thing about summer program applications, especially the high impact ones, is that they are a mini version of applying to college. And so if you start doing it early, this becomes practice for the student. And so by the time that they get to apply to college, they are sort of trained in the process already. They've gone through some of the thinking, they've answered some of the prompts, they've built their background to fit that. So this whole summer program process to me is always a training for a summer program, a college application in the future.
哎，Demmy 刚刚讲的一点呢，是家长很关心的。那既然其实前面 Demmy 讲的这些项目都是真正的对你大学申请有关联的话，那么到底这些夏校天花板级的夏校项目，他们是要寻找什么样的申请人呢？那毋庸置疑，肯定是这个学术跟课外活动都要非常出色的。但是还有一点呢，他就是讲到了，就是说要能够体现他的这个求知欲。跟他主动去做一件事情的能力，对吧？比如说像是一些需要硬核实力的 ISI 这种级别的夏校，那孩子这个之前呢要有一段很长的 build up， 对吧？他必须是有一些竞赛大奖，或者是他已经做出了一些发明应用，已经有一些科研方面的经验才可能被录取啊。尤其是 STEM 科研方向的，如果你没有这个硬核实力，那基本上就是鸡蛋去碰石头。那么他也讲到了，就是说你在整个申请过程当中，除了你本身的这个要过硬之外呢，那这个文书的写作也非常重要。所以我们今天在下半段呢，会专门分享一下这个夏校的这个文书写作。那今天 Demmy 讲的有一个非常重要的点，我希望家长像我一样，我自己也是个家长哈，家里有个高中生，一个已经上大学了。就是呢，这个我在带两个孩子，这个一起跟他们走升学这个路的过程当中，我是深切的体会到，就是夏校的申请呢，其实是大学申请的热身运动。那最早什么时候开始呢？就是现在8年级的学生，因为你可以8、9、10、11，你有4次机会。那么希望你每一阶呢都可以升得更高。那么最后一阶你就鲤鱼跳龙门进入你的梦校了。Demmy?
Thank you. Okay, so I'll go quickly over the type of summer programs. I'll start with the academic and exploration programs, which are normally not understood to be high impact, but they play an important role as well. So these are typically your pre-college programs with a course catalog that you see, and then you can choose for the student to take these courses. These are normally for ninth graders, sometimes 10th graders, and they're understood to be sort of like exploration type of summer programs, right? They are almost like the step before trying to apply to some of the high level ones. Um, they have offer many different things like interested in a course in genetics, you could take it. These are the type of summer programs. Some of the highlights are summer at Brown is probably one of my favorite ones, that they have different categories that are really interesting. Stanford has good ones, Columbia has good ones, Georgetown has good ones. So there's schools that will offer those. Oftentimes they're understood to be like pay to play type of summer programs because they're not that selective, but they can play an important role in showing that the student is interested in a certain field and have them expose and explore. These are not the type of summer programs that you would normally write in an application, but they can be helpful. There are other types of summer programs that can be helpful, and those are the ones that you do maybe not through a university, but through a different company that can help you even develop research or find some kind of focus, work on something hands-on. All of these summer programs are actually pretty helpful as well. So it's not all about the high impact ones. There are some that can prepare perfectly. One thing that I want to mention quickly is there are some programs that are interesting, like U Chicago has summer programs that are some of them are on the exploration side, others at the highest level, like RIBS, are on the high impact side. But U Chicago has this really important, really interesting thing that it's no longer too much of a secret, but it was when this site was first made, and it's the what we call the ED0 round, right? Which is officially the summer session early notification program. Basically, if you do a summer program at any point with the University of Chicago, the student is eligible to apply early. So within September 1st, between September 1st and October 15th, they can apply to the University of Chicago and get admitted or denied or deferred within that process. So it's a great opportunity for students to have that as an opportunity. It doesn't mean you need to do it, but if a student does a summer program in ninth grade and 10th grade, now they qualify for the ED0 opportunity. So summer programs can have even that type of function.
Demmy 这个呢，它是分享第一个类型的夏校，也是比较适合低年级，甚至包括现在10年级的孩子考虑的啊。那这种呢，就是属于学术类跟探索类的夏校。那这些夏校有很多也是有大学的学分的。那通常呢，有大学学分的那些还是相当来说是优质夏校，虽然他们的申请难度要大大低于之前讲的天花板项目，但是呢，它可以适应更加多的孩子。他举了几个例子，比如说那个芝大的这个 Summer Immersion Program， 还有布朗大学的 Summer at Brown， 斯坦福也有很多 Summer Sessions， 还有哥大、Georgetown 都有非常多类型的夏校。那这个的话呢，实际上就是让孩子去开一下眼界，然后呢，也为他们将来未来的这个专业呢做一个探索。Demmy 特别讲了一点，就是说 U Chicago 呢，芝大呢，它自从去年开始 ED0 呢，它就把它的夏校跟它的申请有关联，也就是说，你之前有上过它的夏校的话呢，是可以 qualify ED0。那如果说你申请 ED0 的话呢，很多孩子还正在埋头写申请呢，你可能就已经拿到了这个芝大的这个申请录取哈。虽然大部分这种类型的夏校，你不能说上夏校跟这个申请大学有直接关联，但是芝大呢，的确是目前是有一定的关联性这个就是我给大家的重点总结。Back to you, Demi.
Thank you. So I'll go quickly over this as well. So there are many different types of summer programs, as I mentioned. Um, Math and writing summer programs are one of my favorite type of, high impact summer programs. The reason being is you can almost introduce writing or math into any narrative, whether the student is interested in, political science or computer science or anything in between. Really, a summer program in a background in writing or math will always be helpful for any student. The great thing about writing and math summer programs is that they're often available pretty early on. Rising 10th graders can apply to Alpha, which is a highly prestigious, high-level writing summer program. Promise becomes available also to rising 10th graders. So all of these summer programs at a very high level in writing and math and they probably have the most summer programs at a very high level as well. I mean, math has Promise, Ross, Mathly, so many of them that, maybe six, seven of them that are really, really strong and a very high level. Writing has maybe five of them at a very, very high level, five, six of them at a very high level that you can approach. So even if you have a middle schooler or somebody who's young, it's probably a good idea to make sure that they are, interested in math and writing and developing their skills so that at some point they can become competitive for these programs. Again, a good writer would have a good shot at a high level summer program in writing if they are a good writer in ninth grade. So this is a great opportunity for students to get into high impact summer programs early on. And really, for research-based summer programs, this is almost impossible. There's no research-based summer program or leadership-based summer program that is available for students that are younger. Usually, it's only through math and writing. So keep that in mind as you're building your students' strongest skills. And this is a great opportunity to reach that early on in the process. It's easier said than done. The reality is, even though they're available to younger students, most students will get into these programs as 11th or rising 11th or rising 12th graders anyway, but there's always a shot. So these are important high-level summer programs to look out for.
这边呢，Demmy 讲的第二类型的夏校呢，他自己也是非常喜欢，就是数学与写作相关的夏校。 就是以之前第一个他讲的天花板级下校实习不一样的地方呢，通常数学和写作下校呢，他们会让低年级的高中生也可以参与，然后呢，他们有不同级别的，从比较容易申请的到比较难申请的话呢，都有足够的 span， 而且呢，就他辅导孩子大学申请的经验来看呢，如果你有数学和写作方面的经验，这个呢是很容易写到你将来的这个文书的这个故事当中去的，所以呢，他鼓励孩子们尝试一下数学跟写作类的下校。Back to you, Demi.
Thank you. So similar, there's the leadership summer programs. These are harder to get into at the high level. However, a student could train for the leadership at a lower level. So there are the at the lower level for 10th graders, rising 11th graders. There's the Brown Leadership Institute, and there's some other leadership institutes around. There's the Georgetown summer academies that have leadership. There are some others out there. Tufts has a great one as well. So there's some summer programs for leadership that a student could start to do early on as a rising as a rising 10th grader, as a rising 11th grader. And then there's the ones that in between. So YYGS, which has become a commodity in our world. I think almost every student applies to YYGS. They get so many applicants. It has become incredibly selective. But I would say it's still considered probably a middle level summer program. It is a fantastic summer program. The program itself is great, but I think the connections and the networking that students can do there is great. I mean, one thing that I've seen come out of YYGS that is great is, a student from Fairfax County, Virginia attends, and they go there and they sit in a room with somebody from Trinidad and Tobago and somebody from Hong Kong and somebody from this different places, right? And then they sit together, and each of them have projects, nonprofits, and different things that they're doing. And all of a sudden, after their YYGS experience, they're all international. The work that they do all of a sudden becomes, oh, we have a chapter in Trinidad and Tobago. Oh, we do things with, so it allows for that networking that will become key in their lives. I mean, honestly, this is not just about college or anything like that. And it's a good training ground for that. So YYGS, great summer program, very, very, popular. So I would say middle ground. But then the high level summer programs for leadership are normally like the Notre Dame Leadership Seminar, which is a free summer program that accepts around 100 people a year of only rising seniors. It's a fantastic summer program, but really, really hard to get into. But that's like the goal, right? That and then the Bank of America student leadership program. So you can see sort of like the progression of different levels. When you're working with leadership, obviously, if you do the Brown Leadership Institute, YYGS, there's no guarantee that you're going to get into the Notre Dame Leadership Seminar. In fact, I would say if you only have those two things, you will not. Generally, people who get into the Notre Dame Leadership Summer Program or the Bank of America are people who have shown leadership within their communities as well, that they've done big things of impact, work with government, work with the community, work with nonprofits, work with businesses, whatever they've done, major impact. So these are fantastic summer programs because, again, like math and writing, they match any narrative. There's no university in the US or in the world that say, oh, we don't like leaders, right? So no matter what the major is, no matter what you're doing, if you show that you are a strong leader and that's one of the main, parts of who you are as a person and as an applicant, it will always look great. So the pathway to the Notre Dame leadership seminars and the Bank of America summer programs generally is very, very bright when it comes to applying to college later on. In fact, I don't think I've ever had a student who did like the Bank of America summer program that didn't get into a top 5 school ever. So there's
Wow, that's
there's
amazing, Demi.
there's something there that
Connected.
is,
Yeah,
yeah,
correlated, right, Demi?
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, that could be a coincidence, but it's an interesting one.
yeah. All right. So 这边呢是讲的第三类呢，就是领导力类的这个下校和实习哈。因为呢，Demi 的意思说，不管你将来申请什么专业，没有一个顶尖的大学不希望能够找到未来的这个领袖。 啊。所以呢，这个领导力是慢慢需要 build up 的。可能在孩子在比较低年级的时候呢，那么比如说去布朗大学的 leadership program 啊，甚至是 YYGS 呢，他们可以跟全世界的这个有领导力的高中生聚在一起，然后呢，可以使他们现在正在做的一些 initiative 和 project 产生更大的影响力。那么之后的进阶版呢，就是那个诺特丹，也就是那个圣母大学的这个 leadership seminar， 这个是一个完全免费的夏校。那么还有呢，就是他第一个讲到的美国银行就是学生领导力的这样一个实习，那个的话呢，不光是免费的，而且它是付费的。那么他所看到的这个学生呢，他必须是已经产生了比较大的影响力，而且品学兼优的孩子，才可能进入到圣母大学领导力以及是美国银行学生领导力的这样一个实习项目。然后呢，据他这些年的经验呢，他说还没有能够进入这两个，如果说一旦进入了这两个高含金量的这个领导力的夏校实习呢，基本上他就是一个 top 5的种子选手，也就是哈耶普斯麻的种子选手。这个听起来是非常激动人心的，但是呢，这个饭要一口口吃，路要一步步走哈。孩子很多的这个领导力有可能不是说就是高中一下子出现的，他可能在初中的时候，那家长就是有意识的看看他是不是喜欢做领导，有意识的往这方面呢，先从小做起，从社区影响力啊，慢慢的开始从义工啊，慢慢的到产生社区影响力。All right, back to you, Demmy.
Great, thank you. So the last one is the research-based, or one of the last ones, the research-based summer programs. We have talked briefly about these, but these are often fantastic because they are the ones that are more likely to have a deliverable, right? You could have a poster or a publication afterwards, which is a great thing to have nowadays when you're applying to college. So some of these are, RSI, as we mentioned, but there are others. In fact, there are also sequences for some of these, right? So SRA, which is a summer research academies, becomes into the research mentorship program. These are UC Santa Barbara programs that are fantastic. BU has BU HSH, and then they have Rice afterwards, Garcia and Simmons, which are at Stony Brook. So you have sort of like this sequence of high-level research-based summer programs. There are the California research-based summer programs, which there are so many of them. Cosmos being probably the quintessential one. It's for Californians only, so if you're not in California, it's not applicable. But Cosmos is one of them, and then there are some others that are really, really good. YSP, which is a medical one from UC Davis, and others that can be really good to look into. I'm not going to go into detail with all of these. They are, great summer programs, usually 6 weeks long, that allow for a student to really immerse themselves into research with the guidance of a professor and or sometimes a group, sometimes individually, depending on the level of the summer programs. And these can be some of the super, great summer programs that students can get into. Interestingly, though, you would expect that students get into the summer programs to do research without research, but generally speaking, most students who get into the summer programs already have some background in research. So sometimes it's a good idea for students, even as early as rising 10th grader, to engage in a little bit of research, independent research, maybe through some service or company that allows them to do some research so that they are ready then for the higher level of school-based research programs like this one, or to make them more competitive for these summer programs.
那么再下来这个第4个呢，就是那个科研型夏校哈，也是家长和孩子非常希望能够申请到的。但是科研类夏校 again， 它是对于那些科研真正感兴趣的孩子。那么这类科研夏校呢，是可以让孩子线下的动手操作的，所以是非常有含金量的哈。经常呢，它的产出呢可以是 poster， 甚至有可能是论文发表哈。举几个例子，比如说那个UC Santa Barbara， 就 Santa Barbara 分校呢，它有2个很有名的夏校，一个叫做SRA， 就是 Summer Research Academy， 还有一个更进阶版给高年级的学生，那个是叫 Research Mentorship Program， 那个的话是教授跟他有1对1的。那么还有呢，就是 Boston University 有那个 BU HSH 跟那个 BU Rice， 主要是生化科研那方面的。那么还有呢，就是那个 Garcia 跟 Simmons 这个呢都是州立大学 run 的非常有名的这个 research program。那么还有呢，我想今天讲座有很多来自加州的家庭哈。那么加州的家庭来说呢，这个 Cosmos 就是一个很有名的，但是仅限于 加州当地居民，它有不同的 track，那个呢不是 most competitive， 但是也是 highly competitive， 而且据我们的经验呢，你如果被 Cosmos 夏校录取，那么以后在申请 UC 的时候呢，你的录取概率还是这两者之间是有相关性的。当然，如果说孩子不去那些run 的各类大学 run 的这个 research program， 他当然也可以做独立的科研项目。All right, back to you, Demmy.
Great, thank you. So again, I'm not going to go deeply into this because we're running out of time a little bit. So I'm going to go, some of the internship-based summer programs are the ones that are understood as, I don't normally refer to them as internship-based, but they're the ones that have, free opportunities for students. NASA has ones. MIT RSI is considered one of them. The Bank of America one that we mentioned. There are also some competitive ones that I think it's important to look into at a state level, sometimes at a city level. So it's always good to open your eyes to local opportunities and internships. So this is something to keep in mind as you're going through the process.
OK 最后一类呢，就是那个实习类的夏校哈，顾名思义，就是让孩子真的是能够做一些事情，就是模拟未来的这个工作环境。这个呢实际上是最难最难。大家都知道，大学生找实习都很难，所以高中生是非常难的。尤其是那些机构常年的 sponsor 实习项目呢，是少而又少的。比如说像 NASA， 就是那个宇航宇空的，就是宇宙航空的。它是每年都 sponsor 高中生，那么还有之前介绍的这个美国银行，那么还有 MIT 的 RSI， 这些呢都是属于实习类的这个夏校但是呢，如果说孩子还没有到这个年纪，或者呢就是说没有那么强，实际上有很多 local 的这个资源哈，包括当地的一些小公司啊，当地的这个 city council 啊 ，government 啊，影子计划这些呢，其实呢都是可以让孩子呢 gain 这个 real world experience。所以不要仅囿于那屈指可数的那几个全国性的实习项目，多关心一下当地的项目，让孩子呢更早的认识社会，能够在社会当中如鱼得水。Back to you, Demmy.
Thank you. So just to provide a little bit of what a typical timeline would look like is ninth grade students can find a summer program that is more on the summer discovery, like we talked about summer at Brown, or maybe one from a company or a service that helps them do research and prepares them in certain ways. So oftentimes rising 9th to 10th grader can be something like that. Normally for rising 9th graders, so 8th graders to 9th grade, my recommendation would be to focus on writing, math, or maybe if they've already have an identified interest to build that a little bit more. But that's not normally, you don't put that in an application. Again, you can find a different pathway in for rising 10th graders to maybe take advantage of the U Chicago immersion programs for the ED0, or if we've identified leadership as an interest, do something like the Brown Leadership Institute. So you can see sort of here the progression of high-level summer programs, developing into culminating in the super high-level ones like a Notre Dame Leadership Seminar or the RMP, right? So here we have SRA in 11th grade, 12th grade RMP, or YYGS in 11th grade, and the Notre Dame Leadership Seminar in 12th grade. So just so that you see more or less a visual of what this could look like depending on the pathway that a student takes.
Demmy 这边呢非常贴心的给大家做了一个时间轴哈，也就是说呢，我前面有说的，就是现在8年级呢，他申请的就是相当于 rising ninth grade，所以你一共有4次申请夏校的机会。那么从低年级开始做一些比较基础的 foundational 的，尤其是跟数学和写作相关的。那么到了10年级呢，可以去探索一些跟他未来的这个专业跟职业相关的，也可以是领导力方面的这个夏校。那么11年级呢，他可以就是说接触一些那个有科研类型的。那么到了11升12的时候呢，那这个时候呢，孩子就比较 ready 去挑战这些天花板级别的这个夏校。所以这个是给大家画的这样一个时间轴哈。每个孩子 track 不一样，但是呢，基本上概念呢就是说，就是饭要一口一口吃，路要一步步走，不要一上来就挑战最难的这个夏校，你肯定是升不上的，要一步步来。那么在这个过程当中呢，孩子会越来越有竞争力，然后孩子呢也对自己会越来越有信心。所以说这个 overall 呢，这个夏校其实也是孩子整个高中阶段当中不可缺少的一环，因为毕竟夏季对一个高中生来说是一个最重要的学期。 Back to you, Demi.
Thank you. So I wanted to really get to these case studies just to show more or less how students get to these places. So the first case, it's an interdisciplinary student that had a strong background in business, technology, and also the environment. So this is a female student. Every student here is East Asian, right? So female student, East Coast. The program that they did, the summer program that they did is the Wharton MNTSI, which is, the Management and Technology Summer Institute at Wharton. It's great because it's interdisciplinary. It combines elements of engineering, computer science, technology, and business, right? For a student like this one who had this combination of interests, it was perfect. So some of the things that they had that allowed them to get into the summer program, which is very, very difficult to get into, is she developed a strong background in both business and technology early on, doing summer programs that allowed her to build sort of like the foundations of knowledge and a little bit of research in the field of technology and business. She also has a patent for a product that she developed, and that product entered competitions, did really well at Blue Ocean competition. I think it's what was in the top 5%, top 3%, and was the winner for one of the categories. Business competitions, Diamond Challenge, Wharton Investment Challenge. So the background was very strong in the business side and also developing with the strong math and the strong technology side. Also AMC, so she was also an AMY qualifier there as well. So when you have the opportunity to do a summer program like this one, and this is also one of those strange, funny correlations, but she ended up applying early decision to UPenn MNT and got in. I would say not all, but the vast majority of my students that have done MNTSI get admitted into UPenn MNT. It's pretty clear. In fact, I've had only one student who didn't do MNTSI who got into MNT, and the rest, maybe a handful that have gone through MNTSI got into MNT. And I mean, it's obvious why, right? They've already spent time in sort of like the same spirit of the same type of work that they're doing. They know the school better, they know the program better, they have a deeper understanding, and they're already strong. Like if they were strong enough to get into MNTSI, then they probably were also strong to get into MNT, right? So that, there's that connection between building from the beginning to get into a certain MNTSI is inherently interdisciplinary. So this student was really between the intersection of business, technology, the environment, and with a heavy interest in arts. Like, she's a photographer. Her personal statement was about photography, a background that is quite interdisciplinary, very, very deep and thoughtful, and allowed her to do all of these different things. So the UPenn MNT program, as some of you may know, it's incredibly prestigious, probably one of the highest level business and technology, or the highest level business and technologies, programs in college that you can possibly do. So that's one case study.
我快跟大家 highlight 一下哈。第一个 case study 呢，是一个来自东海岸的女生，她是一个很有代表性的，就是她是一个跨学科的，她的兴趣跟能力都是跨学科的。那么主要是商科跟技术类啊，她从小也是搞数学竞赛，那么有参加过知名的商业竞赛，有申请过这个 patent。那么她在暑期呢是录取到了这个沃顿商学院的这个 MNT 就是 Management and Technology， 就是管理跟科技结合。那么最后呢，就是说 not surprise， 他是被 UPenn 的这个 MNT 的这个 niche program 录取了。UPenn 的 MNT 的 niche program 要比录取一个普通的 UPenn 的这个 college 要难很多。所以呢，他在这些年当中呢，发现凡是能够被沃顿商学院 MNT 下校录取的，基本上都能够被 UPenn MNT 录取的。反之的话呢，如果没有被那个下校录取的，而录到 UPenn 的 MNT 呢，不是没有，但非常少。Back to you, Demi.
Thank you. So another one, Male West Coast, Bank of America student leadership program that we mentioned. you can see the difference here in background with the students, right? For the MNT, it was very clear, very MNT, management technology. What this student did and was his main sort of accomplishments is he helped pass a state legislation that he worked on for many years. He worked on a workbook that was implemented by a couple school districts as well. One of those leaders that it's with the community that you can see with senators and doing a lot of work and grinding all of that. So that's the type of student that would normally get into the Bank of America Student Leaders Program. And you can see also in the admissions, these are also, I've sort of like seen how students who do this type of work end up getting also things like the Robertson Scholarship or the Jefferson Scholarship or whatever Fulbright. All the merit-based Fulbrights generally favor students like this one, who, yes, are scholarly very strong, but also show exceptional leadership and community engagement. So the admissions results of this student is, he got into Harvard and all of those schools, but did the Robertson Scholar, which the Robertson Scholars is basically the highest level merit-based Fulbright that you could get institutionally. It's a Fulbright given by Duke. It's about a $450,000 scholarship to do 4 years of college at Duke and also do research at Duke and UNC and also do research over the summers. And it's a special sort of like program. There are many, like not that many, but there's some like this. The University of Virginia has the Jefferson Scholars. UVA, Boston University has trustees. Vanderbilt has Cornelius. So there are many institutions that have merit-based Fulbrights. Not all of them do, most of them don't, but the ones that do, these things are it's much harder to become a Jefferson Scholar than a Harvard admitted student or a Yale admitted student or a Princeton admitted student. So these are normally the background of students who will be able to get to this.
第二个 case 呢，他就是讲一个走领导力路线的孩子啊，他是一位来自那个西海岸的男生啊。那这个孩子呢，就是说他从小他就是比较关心社区的政治，比如说他帮助 pass 一些这个 state 的立法啊，然后在他的这个学区呢 implement 一个 workbook， 所以呢他在那个高年级的时候呢就录取了这个 Bank of America 的领导力实习项目。那最终呢他的这个录取是非常 outstanding 的，他不仅被哈佛耶鲁录取，还被杜克大学录取之后呢授予这个 Robertson Scholar。这个 Robertson Scholar 的话，它是一个全奖 full ride， 就是说他的学费住宿是全免的，也就是说拿到了这个呢其实是最 prestigious 的啊，所以他就是而且呢他说呢他把他在这些这个社区的这个经历呢很好的就是体现到他的这个文书当中去。 Next.
Yeah, so the next one is a student who did what would be considered, so we talked about MNTSI, we talked about Bank of America. I would say Cosmos is considered a lower level summer program. It's more accessible. It's California based. It's still competitive. And there are Cosmos at different institutions. But this is I would say a slightly more attainable summer program, or more attainable, not slightly. I think it's significantly more attainable than particularly than the Bank of America one, but most of them. So here we have sort of like a more normal case. I would say the other two students are very, very exceptional. This is also a great student, of course, but a program that is more attainable, noticeable extracurriculars. The student was very great at developing a narrative that was sort of like in the intersection between education and computer science, as well as tutoring and volunteering, with a personal story that was really, really beautiful. And we were able to sort of like leverage that for application process for summer programs and eventually for college. So this is eventually a student who got into Carnegie Mellon, in the School of Engineering or School of Computer Science, the School of Computer Science. So they were able to get into Carnegie Mellon Computer Science through this narrative. I would say, oftentimes people think that you need so much to get into CMU Computer Science, and with a very nice narrative, an interdisciplinary background, a unique passion project that showed his care for his family, he was able to get into as a East Asian male student from the Bay Area to get into Carnegie Mellon computer science, which I think is an exceptional feat. Oftentimes we think, oh, well, you need USMO and UCLA Platinum if you ever want to get a chance at these schools. And the reality is it's not always like that. Sometimes a good story, a good, progress showing a summer program that makes sense with a narrative can make it. And I would say Carnegie Mellon computer science is not inferior to Wharton M&T. I mean, it's hard to beat the Robertson Scholarship because it's a full ride, but it's also really, really good, right? So yeah, that's the background of this student.
呀，第三个 case 呢，就是相较于前两个呢，他不是那么牛的牛娃，但是呢，以他就是说是很热心于做公益，而且呢，为了帮助自己家人呢，他设计了一款就是跟语言相关的教育 app，因为他有一个 purpose，他有一个使命感嘛，所以他影响了很多人，帮助了很多人，作为一个很 unique 的 passion project。那当然，他也参加过一些数学啊竞赛之类的，虽然没有大奖哈，所以呢，他的意思就是说，进入卡耐基梅隆，甚至是他最难进的这个计算机学院，并不见得要拿那么多大奖。有的时候你有一个很好的 story，你有一个非常愿意帮助大众的心，也是可能进入这个顶尖名校的。Next.
Great. All right, so I wanted to include a humanities student. I work, I would say, primarily with STEM students, so I have more cases for that. But I do work with a humanities student. I myself have a background in the humanities and social sciences, so I love working with students with those backgrounds. It's just lower numbers. So I wanted to give a little bit of an example of what this looks like for students. So this is a student that we started working early on in the process for a focus on writing and play scripting, and sort of like the intersection between advocacy, especially economics. So she really cared about poverty and equality and advocacy for that. With writing, that was always her whole thing. So we started working really early on. I've worked with her since she was in 8th grade. So we started building sort of like this narrative early on, getting into high-level summer programs in writing and all that. So to get into the Iowa Young Writers Workshop, what we did is she went into a lower-level summer program in 9th grade, and then she did like the Kenyan online summer program for writing. And then she worked endlessly with her journalism club and doing different things, particularly working a lot on play writing, play scripting. So eventually, with her work in writing, she was able to get into her play was actually played by real paid authors, actors. Sorry, at an actual venue. So she reached a lot of success by focusing on that intersection between sort of like writing, advocacy, equality, economics, and she eventually was admitted into Yale with that sort of background. So I think the Iowa Young Writers Workshop is one of those places that can really legitimize a student's writing and help them achieve different things. It's one of the best, if not the best, summer program for writing. Not the best, I would say. So there's the Iowa Writers Workshop, there's the Kenyan Writers Workshop, and then there's one called Adroit, which is the top 3 of the writing summer programs that to look out for. Yeah.
呀，这个呢是最后一个 case， 是文科类的哈。那这个孩子是来自于东海岸的一个女生，8年级呢就跟 Demmy 老师一起开始。这个孩子从小是爱写作的，所以说 Demmy 老师呢就是让他最开始的时候就 exactly 像之前讲的，8年级申请一个比较容易够得到的项目，那后来呢再去慢慢的升到比较级别高的这个 Iowa Young Writers Workshop。然后呢，他也在 Journalism Club 啊，还有很多剧本写作的这个 club 里面呢，非常努力的写。那最后呢，他是如愿以偿的进入 Yale。大家众所周知 ，Yale 的那个 creative writing 是全国最 top 的那个 program 所以呢，他的主要的这个story 也是在他写作当中做的一些反思啊、触发的灵感等等。所以这个是一个非常成功的很早就开始规划的一个文科类学生的这样一个案例，也是通过一年一年下校的进阶，最后呢进入他的梦校耶鲁大学。All right.
Great. Okay. And I wanted to do one quick one about, and this one, I wanted to make sure that I included this one because I feel this is an example of a
Oh, math.
student.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, and it's also an example that I think of a student that was almost carried by the summer program. I feel like some of the other ones, with or without the summer programs that we talked about, they had a chance at the schools that we talked about. In this case, I feel like the student was really boosted by the summer program. So this is a male, student from the East Coast. Their background was really strong, yes, because they had very good grades and good SAT scores. But aside from AMC and AMY qualifications, I think two AMY qualifications, um, there really wasn't much there. Not so much of passion projects, good well-roundedness, good community engagement with like volunteering, but nothing really exceptional, just well-rounded in a very competitive area. And what ended up happening is, as a rising senior, he did get into Ross, and it's a great summer program that I think really, really boosted his chances to get into schools. Again, I mean, I don't have the proof that this is exactly why he did the way he did, but he got into CMU, UCLA, Johns Hopkins. He got into more than just CMU. I think he decided to go to CMU for mathematics and computational analysis or something like that. But so this is, I wanted to give this example of like sometimes the summer program can really give a student a strong boost, chances, add sort of like that X factor that they don't have when they seem a little bit too bland. And we made sure with the narrative that the student looked really interesting, and he was a really strong and really interesting student. It was just it didn't have anything that was very spiky, and so I think the Ross mathematics summer program really helped sort of like bring that to a different level. So his focus was on stats, so great GPA, great SAT scores, well-roundedness with like a nice background. But again, I think the math summer program really made a difference in this case.
最后一个呢，Demmy 还临时给我们补充了一个 case 哈，就是讲一个数学的。这个孩子呢，他从小是参加 AMC 2次 qualify 过 Amy 还算不错，但是不是说能够一路打到这个奥林匹克数学竞赛。那除此之外呢，他没有太多的课外活动，所以呢，他在11升12的时候呢，Demmy 帮助他申请到了这个 Ross Mathematics。他觉得呢，这个是 boost 他 college application 很重要的一点。当然，他的 essay 当中也写得很有趣。那么他最后呢，不仅是被卡内基被录取了，他还被 UCLA Johns Hopkins 那种最顶尖的大学录取。所以呢，他认为呢，对于这个学生的 profile 来说呢，他进入这个 Ross Mathematics 呢，对他的 college 申请是有个很大的 boost。Demi, is this the end of your presentation? Oh, you have
Yeah,
this
just
one.
very,
Okay,
very
last one.
quickly,
Yeah. Okay,
just
go
very,
ahead.
very quickly.
Yes.
I mean, one thing that I do want to say, we've been talking a lot about summer programs. Keep in mind that summer programs are a great addition to an application. They play a role in a story. They can help sort of like provide that boost. They are not a thing that every student needs to have. I mean, summer programs are an option, a pathway. They are not a requirement. And I think I want to make sure that that's understood. Summer programs are great, but they're not necessarily a requirement. One thing that I think is super important is if you do a summer program at Brown in ninth grade, it doesn't mean that your chances at Brown are going to go up. Yeah, maybe you know the school a little bit better and that can help, but there's no connection between the school saying, oh, this student did a summer program at Brown, therefore their chances are higher. That's not how it works. Sometimes, because of the nature of the summer program, they can have a better shot, but it's not about the school. And therefore, when you see like, oh, SSP sounds like a great summer program for astrophysics, but it's in the University of New Mexico, why would I do that? One thing that it's very important to forget about is where the summer program is doesn't matter. It's how selective it is and how powerful it is. So some people will say, well, I don't want, I definitely don't want to do Simmons because it's at Stony Brook and Stony Brook is good, but it's your local New York school. It doesn't work like that. SSP in New Mexico, RMP in UC Santa Barbara, whether the school is fantastic or not, that's not how you determine whether a summer program is of high value or not. It's how selective it is, it's how much of an impact it has on the background of the students. And that's about it. So that's important to remember. the more summer programs I attend, the better. No, also definitely not the case. There are some key summer programs that can be important. Sometimes it's good to show sort of like that progression between year to year, but that doesn't mean, hey, just get into as many summer programs and that's going to be great. Not at all. If I don't get a top tier program, it's not worth doing. I would say this one is tricky because even though there's true that there's so many pay to play summer programs, especially when if you're a rising senior and you intend to get into a very high level summer into a high level college, and you probably don't want to do summer at Brown, right? It's not the right time for it. You probably want to make sure that you're either doing a high level summer program or a program that's going to produce a deliverable that you can showcase. So there are different ways of thinking about it. But no, some summer programs play different roles. Like we said, in ninth grade, particularly, summer programs like the Summer at Brown can be helpful to build a narrative. And there are summer programs that will help students have a deliverable, show that they are interested in a certain area of research, show that they were able to build something that will make them more competitive later for higher level summer programs or to get into a good college. If I don't get accepted, it means I'm not good enough. Of course not. People are at different stages at different points and also have different specialties. If you don't get any year into into promis, that doesn't mean that you're not good at math. It means that the pool is tough and that perhaps maybe another year you need to work on. So even though it can be pretty difficult for students who start applying to high level summer programs early on to get rejections, I think it's important that they know that it's not always going to be success, especially when we're thinking about 3% acceptance rate summer programs and programs in general, right? So these are some things to keep in mind and to not feel bad about as you're going through the process. So just want to make sure that those were included here before we transition. So after we will transition to Allison real quickly and we'll continue. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Demmy. Yeah, let's just let Allison. I think 之前 Demmy 跟我们讲了那么多，肯定有家长就是想知道，那可不可以就是说是有人带着我的孩子做这些个事情呢？那答案是可以的。所以呢，现在呢我们非常高兴的为我们群里的家长争取来了这个福利，也就是说是可以让这个非 Ivy Campus 的这个会员能够参加到这个夏校实习的早申营。所以呢，接下来呢我就请 Alice 来跟大家介绍一下这个非常 highly value added 的 program， 能够让更多的这个普通的家庭得到像 Demmy 这样资深顾问的这个手把手的这样一个指导甚至包括这个1对1的这个文书的老师的指导。那个 Alison， 你现在可以看到我？
好的，没问题，大家可以听到我哈。我们是走英文的还是走中文的这个 slide？
你这边讲，你讲中文吧。
好的，
因为时间的关系
行，好的，没有问题哈。大家好哈，我是 Alison 赵，我是 Ivy Campus 的 COO。Ivy Campus 呢，我们中文名呢是指南针教育咨询，我们是总部位于纽约的一个精品的升学的咨询公司。每年的话呢，我们其实会严格的控制我们的学生数量。此外呢，就像您刚刚听到的哈，Demmy 他是我们平台上面的顾问，还有一会儿会出来和大家这个 say hi 和介绍自己的 approach 的 Lily 和 Kristie 也是我们平台上面的文书顾问。Ivy Campus 我们每年呢，除了有学生都会进入到这个最顶尖的夏校之外呢，还有哈耶普斯麻以及各个藤校呢，我们也是斩获颇丰哈。我们的藤校以及这个藤校级别的学校，包括这个杜克、西北、约翰霍普金斯、芝加哥大学哈，这个档次的学校的录取率呢是达到了近40%。大家刚刚也听到哈，就是这个夏校的申请呢，很多时候是堪比一个迷你的大学申请，而且有一些顶尖夏校的录取率呢，真的是甚至是低于哈耶普斯麻。而且他们的文书的这个长度哈，也是不亚于我们说正常的大学申请的 personal statement。所以这一次的话呢，我们选择和这个北美家长资源群进行一个合作哈，也是希望呢能以一个比较实惠的一个价格呢，把我们的这一个升学服务里面非常重要且这个工作量呢也是很繁琐，而且高度个人化、定制化的这么一个服务的环节，就是夏校申请能带给我们的学生和家长。 Cindy，你需要补充一下吗？还是？
我觉得你前面已经讲得很好了，我觉得其实可以给大家那个分享一下，就是说我们这个3个月的夏校实习早申营是怎么一个安排，我想这个是家长非常想了解的，他到底可以得到什么，为什么有些事情他 DIY 很难做。
好的。那个我们的这个夏校申请的早申营呢，其实分成2部分哈。第一部分呢是 group class， 是由我们刚刚的 speaker Demmy 来lead，分成3次，从11月18号开始到这个感恩节之前结束哈。第1周的话呢，我们是会和学生呢 walk through different categories of 这个 summer camps。此外的话呢，我觉得最重要的是，我们说授人以鱼不如授人以渔哈。我们希望是教给学生一个如何根据自身的情况，还有呢你的一个成长的轨迹，以及你的升学的这么一个路径呢，来选择最合适自己的夏校，而不是人云亦云的大家都去当炮灰哈，去申请这个最难的这个夏校。这个是我们希望能教给学生的。第二的话呢，我们也希望学生能提早的进入到开始准备自己的简历以及自荐信，我们说的叫做 brag sheet 的这个环节哈。因为很多顶尖的夏校，包括 RSI 和刚刚我们提到的一些研究类的夏校，他们已经需要学生去提交他们的 activity list 以及超过2封的这个老师的推荐信了。所以呢，我们会带领学生做一下自己的这一个简历，以及如何的去做自己的这个自荐信。自荐信的话呢，这个呢，我是觉得是对学生的 self reflection 以及他来梳理自己的长处及不足的一个非常好的机会。这是我们第2周的主要的内容哈。此外的话呢，我们会有相应的，包括像这个夏校申请流程的一个 track 的模板，还有这个简历以及 brag sheet 的模板，我们都会分享给我们的学员。那第3周的话呢，我们就会正式的引入到我们的2位的这个文书老师哈，来和我们的学生见面了。此外呢，我们会分享这个什么是写的好的文书，什么是写的一般的文书哈，一看就一目了然哈。同时呢，我们也会教学生如何在比较短的时间内有什么样的一些方法或者一些小的技巧哈，能把你的文书写好写巧。除了3次的这个 group class 之后呢，我们就会进入到1对1的文书教练的这一个流程里面了。我们会提供3次的 Zoom session，包括和我们文书老师的头脑风暴，然后挖掘主题，以及这一个可能对这个主题的一些就是我们会可能讨论哈。那此外的话呢，我们会进行一个线下的修改的动作。总的字数呢是我们设为是2000字。每篇文书呢我们会最多提供3轮的修改和润色。基本上呢2000字的话呢，如果您升的是比较 competitive 的夏校的话，像 RSI 这样的夏校的话呢，可能就是两所。但如果你可能搭配的比较合理的话呢，那可能会有3所的夏校是可以升到的。最后的话呢，学生的话呢，需要负责在这个官网上面进行填写申请表，然后呢还有上传各种各样的文书及这个所有的申请材料，然后呢 double check review， 然后呢您自己负责提交。这个是我们一个大概的一个整个的 curriculum 的设置。
非常感谢 Alison 的解释哈。这边有个好消息呢，就是前面3周我们都是有这个申请经验非常丰富的 Demmy 老师在我接触到那么多申请顾问当中，他是为数不多的，既对整个每本申请很了解，又对这个夏校的各种类型以及不同年级的孩子应该申请什么夏校非常了解的这么一个顾问。所以说前3周呢是由 Demmy 老师亲自给学生上这个线上工作坊，然后在第2周第3周都有这个答疑时间，对吧？保证他跟每个孩子都有足够的 interaction。那接下来的话呢，我们就让2位文书教练来跟大家见个面好吗 Alison？
好的，那现在我们先欢迎 Lily 吧。Lily, I see Lily's here. So Lily, you can open your mic and your camera, if possible.
第一位是 Lily 她是 UCLA 最高荣誉毕业哈，在过去的将近10年里面都是非常专注于申请文书写作与辅导哈。那 Alison 跟她也工作过一段时间，她是盯学生盯的比较牢的这样一个老师那有请Lily 来跟我们介绍一下她的 unique approach, relationship driven approach.
Great. Thank you guys so much for having me. Allison, did you want me to share that slide?
You can, we already share the slides right now, if you can see.
Okay, great. Yeah, so it's great to be back on the platform. My name is Lily McClung, and I am a consultant here with the IB team. I have been consulting for several years now. I've worked in education for almost 10 years as a teacher, as a curriculum developer, and as a consultant, which is why I'm here today. So I am a grad of UCLA. I graduated from UCLA summa cum laude. So UC alum here. I love helping students work on the UC process specifically, but really any school. I know that there's some great summer programs through the UC system. Basically, my bread and butter is the essay coaching side of things. So when it comes to summer programs, something that's really important to keep in mind is obviously we know that a lot of the best summer programs are highly competitive. So along with being highly competitive, it's important to keep in mind that they are going to require essays. So the essays typically come in the form of a personal statement or a statement of purpose. And really the goal there is for the student to explain themselves, explain their goals in the summer program, showcase their potential beyond the grades and the test scores, right? So when I'm working with students on any essays, be it, Common App, UC Personal Statement, or these summer program type essays, it really is important to keep in mind the same kinds of ideas. And what I mean by that is, first and foremost, my relationship-driven approach that I employ has to do with a couple key pillars, and that's going to be that my coaching is narrative-based. So I work with students to tell their story in a way that is authentic and memorable. So in order to do that, the most important thing, first and foremost, is to build a relationship with my students. And what I mean by that is really get to the heart of what it is they want to convey and who it is that they are, right? So I need to know that in order to help them convey that in their essays, or their essays are just going to come across as kind of very formulaic and very standard and very much like, oh, well, this is written great, but I don't really feel the heart in it, right? So we need to have that authenticity. We need to have that memorable aspect to the essays. And I found the best way to get to that, to get to the true heart of the message that needs to be conveyed, is to really make sure that my students feel comfortable with me. And that's what I mean by my relationship-driven approach. So another thing that goes into that approach is going to be the way that I help students articulate, right? So this is what I like to call my ethos-based framing. So this is helping students articulate their purpose, right? Their why, with clarity and with intention. So when we're thinking about crafting these essays, we're not just thinking about crafting a great essay. We're also thinking about, what is the ethos here? What is the general message that we need to kind of get across that's less about, just answering the prompt and more about really who this student is and what their message is. And in order to really do that is, required is the student needs to be confident in themselves. Right? So building student confidence is another really important pillar of the approach that I take in building my relationships with my students and my clients, is making sure that, when I'm looking at drafts and I'm leaving feedback, that I'm not just talking about the ways that we can polish the essay, right? I'm talking about that too. But I'm also talking about, how can we showcase a student's true voice? Right? How can we make this essay really, really shine in their own voice that sounds authentically them and conveys the message that they so, desperately need to get across, right? And in order to do that, we really have to have confidence. A student has to have confidence in what it is that they are saying. So these are essentially three of the core main pillars that I think about and that I employ when I'm working with students and in my specific approach that I have. So again, this approach is going to span, of course, largely essay work, right? When we're working on these essays, we have to have these key elements, but the application overall, right? So I don't just work on essays, I work on applications holistically with students. And so it's really important for me and my student to build a really great rapport, which is what I focus on from day one. So that's a little bit about me, a little bit about my coaching style, a little bit, very, very brief little bit, right, about my background. I know that we are pressed for time here, so I don't want to go on for too long, but that is how I do things, and I look forward to hoping to work with some of you guys in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lily 啊，因为时间关系，因为这张 slide 我已经加了这个中文翻译，我就不重复了。那这边的 Lily 特别强调的一点呢，就是说她跟孩子辅导的时候呢，一定会跟这个孩子先建立关联，因为只有孩子 open up， 文书老师才能够帮他写出有个人特色，用非常真实的语言，能够让评委一眼记住的这样一个文书。好，接下来呢，我们有请 Kristie 来给我们分享一下 before after 哦，他是怎么跟学生互动，从干巴巴的描述写出一个有声有色的故事哈，这段是非常直接听的。我知道有些家长可能还没吃饭，有些家长已经很晚了，那么请大家 stay tuned， 因为这个真的是非常干的干货跟大家分享。All right, Kristie, would you like to share your screen? Right now, I think I'm still seeing Demmy's screen share. Demmy, you wanna stop screen share? Oh, Kristie, yeah, okay. OK， 在 Kristie 之后，我就会 open the floor for 大家，大家也可以开始把问题打给我，有的问题我能回答就回答。Hi, Kristie. Yeah, your screen share is still loading. Now we can see it. Go ahead, Kristie. Welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, like Lily, I am on the Ivy Compass team, and my role in the summer program process will be to work with students one-on-one with their essay revisions. Just like college applications, many of the summer programs will ask students questions like this and ask for written responses. And we work to teach students how to maximize their results using the principles that Lily was talking about. So this is a sample of what most parents would expect to be a very good response, a solid response to some of those questions. I'm passionate about economics and sustainability. I took AP Calc economics in college. The courses I selected will strengthen my analytical skills and prepare me for my future career. Now, the problem with this is that this is not what the admissions people, both at the college level and both at the summer program, are looking for. It falls a bit flat. It feels like a list of paragraphs and sentences that simply repeat the resume. They use generic language talking about passions. There's no story that teaches about the student. This could be any student. How would they know what is special about your child if they were reading this? This could be anyone. So our job is to move the essay, move the summer application essay from this resume style, which is very generic, doesn't stand out, it's kind of formal, and make a polished narrative, which starts with a vivid moment. It really shows how your student thinks. It shows how they're curious, how they are alive, and it moves the application forward. So for example, think about it in your own terms. You might say to someone, my child wrote about their achievements and listed courses. Again, we don't learn anything from that statement, but an after would be they built a story that reveals how they think, how they learn, and how they connect ideas. So the goal isn't to sound impressive. It's to sound authentically curious, self-aware, and intellectually alive. And that actually will move the needle toward acceptance. So what a reader of an admissions essay for summer is looking for is the after. The before might be, I'm passionate about credit purchasing behavior. This would be for an economics student. But the after would be, well, even the Discover card, often overlooked, appeared in 2.6 million or 2.6% of transactions. It's proof that every purchase tells a story. Well, now the admissions reader wants to know more. They want to know, well, how did you analyze this? Why did you analyze this? Why are you even interested in credit? And so we move into a polished narrative that is specific, it is playful, and it becomes memorable. There is a thread moving through, which is not just math, but it's I find stories in numbers. And it moves the reader from just hearing about data into feeling empathy for the student and for the people in the story. And it often ends with some kind of reflection. So the polished narrative would read like this. At 2 years old, I insisted that 50 should be called 5T. At 2, oh, I repeated it. Sorry, it's there twice as good. Arguing it fit better with 40, 60, and 70. Well, even then, I sensed that numbers weren't random. They followed patterns, revealed hidden connections, and made sense of the world in ways words often couldn't. We are now learning how the student thinks, what the student finds fascinating and interesting, and how it is going to set up their future studies. Now we have momentum. So the essay can move on and tell this story about the student. Over time, I realized that behind every number was a story about people, choices, systems, fueling my passion for math. We're not just saying the student loved math. This fascination led me to economics and finance, where data isn't just numbers, but it's a powerful narrative that helps us understand and predict human behavior. This student is not just about numbers. They want to understand human behavior. Suddenly we have a much rounder picture and a much more exciting picture of the student. And then this I probably won't read since we're short on time, but you can see that the polishing of the narrative through work one-on-one, over Zoom, over Google Docs, a very factual, very flat statement into something that's very exciting, that teaches the admissions people what they're getting in a student and helps them to visualize that student on campus at the summer program or online doing exciting work that is meaningful and that is moving them toward where they want to be eventually. So our role, Lily and mine, is very much discovery, helping students to figure out what the best stories are that can showcase them, and then making them come alive on the page. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kristie. 那因为今天时间关系哈，我想给大家留足够多的时间让大家问问题，因为最近已经有不少家长已经聘我有一些问题哈。那我们就 open the floor， 因为之前呢，我觉得 Kristie 呢给我们深入浅出的讲了一个 before after， 就是一个很干巴巴的一个段落，到写成一个有故事、有逻辑、能够打动人心的这样一个文书，那他就成功了一大半了。那接下来呢是我们的 Q&A 时间啊，在我的这个 chat window 里面，大家可以继续给我打问题，然后呢我会我会让我们这个3位嘉宾来轮流回答，我们 actually 4位嘉宾来轮流回答大家的问题哈。今天呢，因为家长非常的热情，一下子把我们18群扫满了，所以接下来的话呢，如果家长想进入我们这个18群，进一步了解这个夏校升学规划之类的呢，可以加Jennifer 老师。那 Jennifer 老师也是我们这次这个夏校实习早申营的这个报名的主要的老师，所以大家可以扫他的码进群。好，那接下来我开始来提问。All right, just as sequence. Okay, so let's see. One question from Charlene. Demmy, how is MITE's summer program? How does that compare to ISI, both sponsored by MIT? Demmy?
1 second. So can you repeat the question, please?
How is MITE's, M-I-T-E-S?
MITE's. Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
MIT,
compared
MITE's.
to ISI, because both are sponsored by MIT.
Yeah, I mean, both are great. RSI is normally considered the one that it's most prestigious because it only is merit-based, while MITES has a component of selectivity that's based on background and experience. You know, it often favors underrepresented minorities, student with different backgrounds. But MITES is fantastic. I would say it's not lesser. It's still a high impact, high level summer program. I would say RSI still is probably considered a little bit higher in its impact and its prestige, but not so different. So I would say if you have a student who gets into MITES, it's pretty darn close to an RSI admittance. And so, I mean, there are different levels at MIT, right? You have also BeaverWorks, which is a great alternative as well, slightly easier to get in, very different process. You go through a class and then you do the actual summer program with BeaverWorks. So RSI is not the only MIT summer program. There's MITES, there's the Beaverworks, and there's some others out there. Each of them have their own quirks and things, but yes, the quintessential highest level summer program, research-based at MIT is RSI. MITES, I would say, would also be considered one of the highest level or among that same realm of super high level summer programs.
Thank you so much, Demmy. 给大家总结一下哈，这位家长就是问，同样是 MIT sponsor 的 ISI 跟 MIT 怎么比较？这两个呢是有非常类似之处，但是区别呢是 ISI 是 open to 所有的学生，是 merit based 啊，绩优就是择优录取。MITES 呢，它会比较 favor 那些 underrepresented 的这个 family 啊，所以相较而言呢，从含金量跟 selectivity 而言呢，是 RSI 更高。All right, the next question, Demmy, I think that's for you as well. What qualifications do you recommend for applying to ISI for economics field? Does ISI even have
that's a great question.
Yeah.
I love that question. Yeah. So I would say for RSI non-traditional fields, which are generally, the very core STEM fields.
Yes.
Usually the students who do well is when they're able to be in economics, for example. I would say if you're very if you're very quantitative on the economic side, if there is a clear STEMs, math, sciencey background to the research that you want to do, generally there's a stronger shot there. Or when it goes very scientific, like if it's a question of economics that went very much into behavioral economics, but using a lot of science behind it, I think that helps a lot. Almost like MIT as an institution that, has people who are interested in any kind of field. Normally they go for the analytical, quantitative, STEM-based side, even within an interest that is not, chemistry or biology or something along those lines. So I've seen some success from students in the past. To be honest, not mine. I think my students who have gone into RSI have been very STEM, but I've known of students who do RSI with a slightly different field, and generally it is by incorporating a very quantitative, very STEM-driven angle to whatever field that they're focusing on. But great question. And this is a great opportunity to say RSI is not only for biology students or chemistry students or students in that very rigorous STEM field. RSI does touch different fields as well. Economics is one of them, and there's a possibility to be an RSI admitted student with that background.
Thank you so much, Demmy. I did not even know ISI has the direction for economics. Thank you. Next question, Alison. 我想这个问题应该是问你的，就是我想家长就是对这个早生营比较感兴趣，那他就想知道，因为整个夏校的这个怎么说呢？就是 research 会花很多时间，所以呢，他想知道，就是说早生营会不会给学生一个 short list， 就是说已经根据你们多年的这个规划的经验，已经总结出了不同年级、不同方向的学校，就是有个 short list。那么当然学生可以增加，但是呢，至少呢给他们一个起步，可以节省他们很多自己 research 的时间，有吗？
对，我们会给学生提供一个 short list， 然后分不同的 category， 会有一些有代表性的或者是比较 popular 的这样的一个夏校。当然的话呢，因为我们其实是希望学生呢不要被这个 short list 所局限，因为每个人的情况不一样，因为有一些夏校呢可能是需要你达到一定的修课的标准和 GPA 的。那还有像刚刚 Cindy 我们也提到的，如果你是没有基础的，你一下子没办法一口吃成一个大胖子，对，所以的话呢，我们提供 short list， 但同时的话呢 we welcome students to research their own summer programs and just bring them to us。 对，这个 short list 我会提供。此外的话呢，我们还会有一个单子的话呢，因为我们刚刚提到了这个字数是2000所以呢，另外一个单子的话呢，那个会提供给我们已经付费的家长和学生，里边呢会有这一个每个学校大概他需要的这一个 essay 的字数，我们会大概把它列出来。今年的这一个有一些夏校目前还没有开放，所以我们呢会参照去年的字数做一个参考。这样的单子
会不会把价钱列一下，让家长能够定一个预算？
对，我们的这个价钱是1850。 对，我们是
哦，
在
谢谢
program，对
哦，那非常性价比真的非常高，因为很多升学顾问这一年要大几千的，对吧？其中最 core 的 part 其实就是这个夏校实习。那也非常感谢 Ivy Campus 能够给我们北美初高中生家长资源分享社群带来这么大的福利。好，希望家长们能够take it。OK， 好，谢谢。Next question, Demmy, I think it's also for you for YYGS.Will the regular application have lower admission ratio than the priority one and tend to get deferred?
Yes, so there is a higher chance to get into the summer program if you apply early. Well, now it's too late. That application was due.
Yeah, for YYGS, but for most
days ago.
other summer program, it's still early. That's why we have the webinar today, right?
Yeah. So YYGS sale for this year at least has gone, but normally, yes, you would have a higher chance of getting admitted into a summer program if you apply early. In the specific case of YYGS, yes, particularly for students who are not rising seniors. I think if you are a rising 11th grader, the chances do go up quite a bit if you apply early on in the process. So we've seen great success of students who are not rising seniors getting admitted into YYGS through the October deadline, which is good. So yeah. And in general, for summer programs, in particular for YYGS, applying early does help. I will say though, it's a tricky thing to do because you get admitted by December, and that means you have to pay the deposit by December before you even know anything else about any other summer program that you've applied to. So if you do apply early to a summer program like YYGS, you have to make sure that you really want it and you really like it, or that you don't mind paying a deposit and then just letting it go. So it's either one of those two things because it gets tricky with that, right? So and that's why they do it. They force, if you get admitted in December and you have to make a decision within a few days, you're kind of hooked to them and you're kind of committed to them because you have to, pay that deposit or else wait for the other summer programs, which you will be waiting for quite a bit of time, and that's not going to work out, right? So that's something to be conscious about with the early action YYGS.
Yeah, makes sense. That's another reason. 就是我跟 Alison 在商量这个时间的时候呢 ，Alison 非常 nicely 的，就是一个呢是要在就是11月，我们这个因为 workshop 是11月8号开始嘛，一直到2月8，workshop 是3次，那之后的一对应的2月8号结束，因为有些 summer program 它现在还没有开放，但是到2月8号呢，大部分的 summer program 都开放了。那么 Demmy 讲了一个很重要的点，就是夏校申请跟大学申请有相似之处，如果你早申的话呢，你的录取概率会高一点。那唯一的 caveat 就是说，如果你早申录取了，那你就要 pay deposit， 对吧？那你当然你可以 let go deposit， 但是呢，就是说是基本上你要想申的话，就尽量早点申，加入我们这个早申营有 Demmy 这么好的老师做定位，然后呢也有 Kristie 和 Lily 2位老师，其中一位跟学生1对1的做文书，那孩子的录取率就会高很多。OK。Next question. Oh, actually, 有些家长可能不方便打字。Yeah, feel free to raise your hand, and then when I call your name, 你可以就是说是打开麦克风方便的话，这样想给家长更多的这个方式来提问。好，all right. Next question, either for Lily or Kristie. What if my kids are not good at writing? They don't even know what to write, or they have something very dry.How do you usually help with those kids, especially STEM kids, right? You probably dealt with many of them, not so good at writing, did not take any enrichment writing program. So what's your general approach to help them write impressive stories in their essay?
I can start off. Kristie's approach might be a little bit different.
Sure.
But for me, it's more about I just need them to provide the ideas because even if they're not a great writer, I'm a great writer.
I see. Yeah.
I can take the idea, right? The story they want to tell, the ideas, and we can shape those ideas together, right? Into something that looks good. So if they can provide the idea, even if they're able to, produce a draft that is very lackluster in terms of its writing ability, right? Which is very often, that's not an uncommon thing. Then I look at that, I say, okay, what is the main message we're trying to convey? And then I completely clean it up. Right. So I don't mind going in there and being heavy handed with edits if that's what students need. because it's more about making sure that, you know, obviously they're able to tell a compelling story or to get their point across. But if they're a poor writer, that's where I come in and I totally clean up the writing. So it's not like we would ever let them submit, you know, something that's lackluster if their writing ability isn't great. Of course, we're going to try to help them work on their writing ability. But at the same time, we understand that we're working on deadlines and we're, you know, our goal is to get the application, to get the essay in, right? So at that point, I'm going to take what's there and I'm going to fine tune it.
That's great, good news 哈。这边呢，就是有家长问我家孩子比较 STEM， 写作比较差，如果我都写不出来怎么办呢？那 Lily 就说，他呢，只要孩子有 idea 有想法，他是个很好的 writer， 他会帮助孩子呢，很好的表达他的意思，不要写出干巴巴的文章，一下子就被人家评委给枪毙掉。所以 good news 哈，如果报这个早生营的孩子不用担心，在1对1当中，老师会帮助他头脑风暴，帮他 outline 啊，甚至告诉他，我可以根据你的 idea， 我大致可以写成什么样。当然你要用自己的语言表达出来。OK， 所以大家不用担心，因为的确我这边想说一下，整个夏校申请呢，文书是最耗时也是最难的一部分，所以呢，我们这一部分呢是给大家那个做1对1，那么帮助孩子呢很好的 get over， 而不要放弃，而且这个是个很好的热身。如果你能把夏校文书写好，那么将来在大学申请文书当中，你就已经成功了一大半了啊！所以希望大家抓住这个很好的机会和福利。Next question, Demmy, I believe that's for you. Demmy, could you recap which summer program for current 9th grade to apply? Actually, I think Alison, probably you can take that question too, because you did a lot of summarization of the programs your counselors helped the student to apply in the past, right, Alison?
那个问题，
你举几个例子，9年级的孩子可以申请的好吗？因为9年级的孩子他说 current 9th grade， 所以他已经是一个 rising 10th grade 了，那应该有很多 program 可以了。
OK，rising tenth grade， 其实很多时候是这样的，我们一般的会看第一个，你可能还是会去上的是一些 pre-college 的一些我们说的以上课的这种形式在进行的夏校，而不是研究的夏校，因为研究的夏校的话，大部分给的是11升12的学生，少部分会给10升11的学生。我们现在是讨论的是那种我们说的不是 pay to play 的，就是说还是有一定的含金量的这种项目的哈。所以的话呢，你其实9升10的你的主要的你上这个夏校的 goal 是什么呢？你是让小孩他尽早的确定他可能对哪一个专业感兴趣，他的这个高中的4年想要在哪一块上面花更多的时间和精力去 build evidence， 然后用这个 evidence 去申请他的大学，所以这个是他9升10的这个夏校应该要达到的一个 goal， 而不是说我要去挤含金量非常非常高的那些夏校，因为你是进不去的。对，那所以的话呢，这个的话，第一个和孩子商量商量，他目前对什么感兴趣，对哪个方向感兴趣。如果他说我对啥都不一定有很高的兴趣哈，那这样的话呢，您可能就可以送他，比如说像哈佛有 pre-college，Brown 我们刚刚提到的有 pre-college， 就是说你可以有各种各样的不同的课程可以选择的。那一个呢是让他去尽可能的 explore as many courses as possible。 第二个的话呢，把它放到一个比较好的一个大学的环境里面，至少可能可以激发一下他可能就是想要往高处去那个 reach 哈，就是升名校的这样的一个内驱力吧，这是我的一些建议。
非常感谢 Alison，我觉得这个可能是很多家长的一个疑惑。一方面呢，觉得高含金量的夏校跟大学申请相关想冲，但是另一方面呢，孩子可能核心实力没有那么强。那这个时候呢，就像 Alison 说的那种呢，不是 pay to play， 但是有一定含金量，但是录取率呢可能在30%左右，甚至更高一点点的那个夏校呢，那孩子通过这个早生营，那么他录取的这个概率就非常高了，对吧？因为有老师帮你把关定位，有老师告诉你申请资料怎么填，还有那么好的文书老师 Lily 跟 Kristie 那么有经验的老师帮你写出能够打动评委的这个故事，我相信他们的这个录取率就会高很多啊。那非常感谢，所以这也是早生营的一个非常大的这样一个 value added 哈。通常这个是只有那个有 private 的升学顾问的孩子才有，所以再次感谢那个 Alison 把这个 program 分享过来。Demmy, there's another quick question for you. Are there any summer program for rising 8th grade? So I told the parents to consider math and writing. Do you have any example for like young kids? Rising 8th grade. Yeah,
rising 8th. So math and writing, I would say also would be my main suggestion. CTY has historically been really good at providing great opportunities for students. What is the other one called? Expo.
Oh, Expo. Yes, yes, I know that program.
Expo, CTY. Those ones that focus on either very niche things or core skills like writing and all that are good ones. I would say also ones that prepare for competition stuff. So maybe ones that prepare for AMCA competitions could be good. Anything with AOPS. I would say very core fundamental things would be my suggestion. With the or maybe some exploratory stuff could be fine if the student feels strong already with fundamentals. Yeah, but I think for the most part I would go for reading and math, reading, writing, and math as the main thing. Since again, those are the things that you will be able to apply to almost any major and anything, and it's super flexible. Yeah.
Thank you so much. There are two parents raised their questions. I don't know who raised the question first, right? Maybe 建平徐您可以打开麦克风。
Okay. My daughter is currently 11th grade, and she applied to SSHI and IMP last summer, and she was in the wait list for both of the programs. And my question is that we are planning to apply for both of the programs this year, which she is going to be the rising senior. But she's the same person. Can she apply use the similar kind of essay? Or personal statement, because she has a similar story of her own. And what kind of the possibilities that if she was in the wait list and applying again this year, would that be a plus or minus for applying? Thank you.
Yeah, great questions. I would say the fact that you move from Rising 11 to Rising 12 already helps. So just the age of the students when it comes to summer programs does help. There is a bit of a preference for older students, and that's generally true for summer programs. They will like a Rising senior a little bit better than a Rising 11th grader. Now the question about the essays, I mean, it's always good to go back and see if there's anything that can be modified or added, but there is no penalty for reusing some of the work that you've already done. I mean, if it works and it continues to be the story that you want to tell, great. But again, I do recommend going back and seeing if is there anything that we could do or change to show some, development or progress or something like that. But as a core, you're able to, of course, reuse the same essays. I think being waitlisted for both the Stanford Summer Humanities Institute and the Research Mentorship Program at UCSB is probably a good sign that there will be a stronger shot this year for either of them. I think it would be nice and helpful if there's a little bit of a difference between the application from the year before and this year, especially if there was some improvement or there was a deliverable achieved between that time frame. But I suspect that there's going to be a strong shot this year.
建平这边我是想这么建议哈，因为 Demmy 呢，他没有完全 thoroughly 的了解就是孩子的经历啊，他这个其实也很难做出一个很精准的判断。如果说你给孩子报这个营的话呢，那 Demmy 会很仔细的看一下他的这个 resume， 跟他have a quick conversation 来告诉他你应该更精准的定位什么。而且我不知道去年他的文书有没有有经验的文书老师帮他有那个修改润色过，因为这个也是 make a difference， 就是说在大家条件都差不多的情况下，那文书就是会 take 一个比较重的 weight 来决定录取谁。好，那非常感谢你提这个问题，也希望你今天学到了很多干货。Next question, Demmy, that's probably for you as well. If the student has a good GPA, have passionate about engineering and science in school's Science Olympiad Club and advanced to state level, attended a college summer program and produced an engineering prototype with her teammates, has rich extracurriculum in community service, but no any high-level math or science competition or research experience, does the student currently 11th grade have any chance to get into ISI or MITES? So essentially she's asking whether the profile is strong enough for ISI.
Yeah. Probably not. I mean it depends on how it's framed and how the story is told.
Yeah.
But I think if I'm very honest, the chances are low. I think the chances would be
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah, so
so-
Charlene, in this case, 我们会比较建议你考虑一下这个给孩子报一下这个夏校实习早生营，因为在那个里面呢，Demmy 可以更加仔细的看一下孩子的 background，给他推荐这个孩子能够够得到。其实说实在的，我自己也是家长，因为我带孩子也一起申请夏校嘛。其实申请夏校跟大学非常相似，它也要有保底、匹配跟冲刺啊。所以说你的这个 list 不应该全都是 rich 的。你应该有些匹配，甚至有一个保底的。当然，你不可能像申请大学要申请10几个甚至20个。但是呢，我知道很多学生申请5、6个夏校很正常。那么你在这个早生营当中呢，可以把难度高的夏校通过 Demmy 以及那个2位文书老师的指导呢，很好的完成。那么剩下的，比如说你是那个你进去的概率比较高的夏校，那你就自己写一下，问题也不大，对吧？所以说呢，我是非常建议家长，就是说是通过这个经历呢，让孩子学会你在申请的过程当中一定要分层，不要就是全部扑到很难的，然后这样的孩子也比较容易 getting frustrated。OK， 很好的问题。All right， 还有个问题是11年级的孩子是申请 summer camp 还是 summer credit course 比较好？So Demmy, one question from parent HZ. She has a 11th grade. I believe it's current grade, right? Whether you would recommend her child to apply for summer camp or summer credit course?
Yeah, good question. It depends on which summer credit course. But normally credit courses are institution based. So if you do a credit course at a particular institution, that credit may not be transferable to other institutions. So that's something to look into. And whether or not how big of an interest there is to that institution. Generally speaking, a summer program in its more traditional sense, like the ones that we've mentioned, is better of an option to improve or embellish or make stronger an application, a college application. But it could be that there's the right summer program that is credit based for the student. Though I would say typically, in a very general sense, the highly selective summer programs like the ones that we've mentioned will fare better. And that's mainly based on selectivity and prestige, right? So the reason why RSI is such a big deal is because it has a big name and it has a very low acceptance rate. And that's the reality. There's some great research-based summer programs locally that nobody has ever heard about that perhaps do just as well. But the reality is, which is true for colleges too, right? Whitman College in Walla Walla, Washington may have a better education than a top 15 school. But
yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. Yeah. Demmy, next question. Oh, looks like we have lots of junior students right now. So again, this is a question from parent named Minnie Yan. My kid is a rising senior. She went to a summer program after 10th grade, so which is last summer, right? Should she focus on college application during the end of 11th grade summer or going to another summer program? I think that's a question many parents are wondering. By the way, I also have a junior student. That's something in my mind as well. What should they do, right? If they went to a summer program in the past summer, what should they do in the next summer?
So it depends on the summer program too. Let's say if they did the AFS Global Academy, which has a 0.7% acceptance rate, and they want to make sure that they focus this year on something else, then great. I mean, you already have the very selective summer program. If it was a summer program that was a little less selective, then it might be a good idea to consider some. In the way that I usually, and this is personal to my college consulting, the way that I do timeline is I start the process of applying to college before the summer of rising 12th grade. So I, in fact, start with my students working on personal statements right after we finish the summer program application. So summer program application season. So I'll tell you a little bit of my timeline, right? So right now, my students are basically working on the fall competitions, which is normally the one that just passed is Young Arts. Then we have Scholastic coming up, and then we have AMC coming
Right.
up afterwards, right? So after AMC, we work on summer, or around the same time, we work on summer program applications all the way till normally January, February. Right after that, then we begin the college application process with the personal statement. So the personal statement, because it's a difficult reflective piece of writing that we do, normally we start really early, so around February, March, and then normally if the student attends an AP school, we take a little bit of a break before May to make sure that the student is focusing on APs, and then we come back to it. So by the time that we get to the summer, normally my students will have at least some kind of a foundation of an application already. And so they will have generally time for a summer program. Now, if it's a research-based summer program that's going to, take out the student for 6 weeks in the summer of rising 12th grade, then we push that before, like we know you got admitted into RMP and it's going to be 6 weeks. Then we make sure that we do as much as we can right before it and right after it so that we can, make up for the time. So I would say it's not impossible to do both. It's not impossible to, if you manage time correctly and you make the timeline in accordance to what it needs to be, you can make it happen. I mean, we make it happen. We're making it happen right now. I mean, I'm meeting a student that went on a 6-week summer program. I met them before this, and I'm meeting them afterwards because we're making up the time of that absence of 6 weeks. So, I mean, it will depend on the consultant and how you're working with, but you can make it work.
Yeah. 所以 Demmy 的意思就是说，哪怕你的孩子就是说明年暑假就要申请，其实做 summer activity 跟申请这2件事情是不是说鱼和熊掌不能兼得，是安排好的话是可以做的。尤其是你去的这个 summer program， 如果意义大、含金量大，它是会建议兼顾的。All right. So another question for rising senior in finance and economics: would it be better to apply to a prestigious summer program or have an internship at a company?
Great question. And the field is economics and what?
Finance and economics.
Okay, finance and economics. Very good question. The thing about internships that I think is important to note is that internships are not, there are some internships that have a selectivity value, and I think those are really good. So if they are a famous internship that, you apply to every year and they has a 2% acceptance rate, those can be good because they show selectivity. In general, though, internships can be a little bit tricky because whether you are interning at JP Morgan or a mom and pop's little, boutique firm, it is difficult for an AO to know how big a deal this is unless you write about it in an effective way. So the big thing about internships, they're only as good as you let the admissions officer know that they are good. So if you spend at JP Morgan, 5 hours a day making copies and coffee, it's not going to do too much. Whereas you may have an internship where you were the lead for portfolio management. I mean, that's probably not going to happen. But if you had the opportunity to do something of impact within the internship, it can be a big deal and it can look good and it can be as good as a summer program. The summer program will be safer though, because if you get into, let's say, LBW at Wharton, as a rising senior, which is, the Leadership Business of the World program, which is the quintessential sort of like businessy economics, especially for those applying to a business school in the future, it is likely going to be safer. It's if the student does LBW, we know there's a standard experience that they went through. We know it's good in a certain way or not. So the internship, again, is slightly more nebulous of an activity. It is what you say it is. and therefore you need to sort of like build it in that way. The moment that you say you went to LBW, there's a standard of what we know exactly what you kind of did. And yes, you can reflect on it and make and add more to it. But my recommendation would be apply to both, discuss it with your consultant, see what makes the most sense. But I do recommend applying to summer programs as a rising senior with an interest in finance and business. I definitely recommend looking at the Wharton summer programs. That's probably where the best options will be for a rising senior, particularly LBW will be something to look into.
那个我想这个补充一下哈，那个 Cindy 还有各位家长，就是说这一个夏校申请的话呢，其实一个是除了它的这个 activity list 和 resume 哈，还有推荐信之外的话呢，其实文书是一个非常重要的一个点，就是说为什么我们会有这一个营出来哈？我觉得除了这一个夏校的申请和实习的申请之外的话呢，其实是让学生他来预演一遍大学的申请。为什么呢？因为我们在带学生的过程里面发现，其实是平时写作再好的学生，或者是这一个所谓的这好学生哈，到了12年级做这个 personal statement 的时候，都极其的痛苦。是为什么呢？是因为其实第一哈，我们的华人的家长的话呢，我们的家庭其实是大部分还是很幸福的哈，就是大差不差的。所以的话呢，我们从题材上面来说的话，就没有我们说的我们的其他的 Hispanic 或者是African American 其他的族裔有那么多的可说的故事。那第二个的话呢，就是说，特别是华裔小中男哈，我们说很多时候他对这个生活的这个关注度是非常的低的，他其实很难去观察自己的身边的生活，他的点是怎么说？我们说他的观察点是不会特别的细节的。那像这样的学生的话呢，他很难就是他有他自己的对不同事物的独到的观点，但是你对不同事物的独到的观点这一点的话呢，以后在你的大学文书的写作里面是极其重要的。对，所以这个我觉得哈，就是说，其实我想强调的就是说，这个营的话呢，它的一大重点是文书的写作，带学生走一遍这个我们所谓的 personal statement 的这一种写作的 style。它和
对个人陈述，我这边想补充一点啊，因为我自己是家长嘛，个人陈述这不是学校的英文老师教的，所以为什么很多孩子到写夏校文书、大学文书他就崩溃了呢？因为他不知道这种文体怎么写而且就像 Alison 说的，很多孩子他的经历比较单薄，所以他不知道怎么从平凡的生活当中挖掘亮点。那这个呢，就是我们的文书老师 Lily 跟 Kristie 非常擅长的。而且这个过程当中，我个人觉得不是你就是产出一篇好文书，最重要的是让这个孩子能够自己向内看，我是谁，我喜欢做什么，什么事情对我是有意义的，我为什么要做这件事情。这也就是为什么说美国大学要求孩子从小就做这方面的练习呢？因为这个其实是对于这个孩子整体在将来大学甚至走上社会的 success 都很有用的。所以全世界而言，美国的申请是最难的。你只要美国的大学能申请了，世界各地大学你随便申，对吧？我们开个玩笑。Alright，那今天时间很晚了，我看家长这边还有不断的问题过来哈，我再抛几个比较有代表性的问题。Demmy, sorry, we keep you so busy. You have to address this question. If you apply for the writing summer camp, is writing related award a must have?
Yeah, good question. No, but
preferred.
Preferred. I would say it's helpful to have an award. But luckily a lot of the applications for the writing ones are writing sample based. So it is also based on if your writing is impressive, and you might not need an award, but it does help to have an award. I mean, if you're applying to a summer program for writing and you have a gold medal from Scholastic, even from middle school or something like that, it's going to help you. It's going to help you a lot. So definitely helps to have a background with some kind of awards in writing. But again, not necessary. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. With the time already at 10 p.m. Let me see. Okay, I got it. Just two more questions coming. Let's see whether it's a short one or not. Okay. Oh, yeah. This is actually a great question. Let me copy paste this. Alison, you may want to address this question. Let me copy paste this question to everyone. I think this parent is already thinking, about the camp. 你看一下，因为这个问题就是说是有没有 camp introduction。Of course， 你说那个 shortlist right？Alison， 你回答一下这个问题吧，我再看一下其他的问题。
对，我们one more question. Do you have initial version so that the student can have an idea of what to make on this instead being told by parent to do？对，这个我们会有一个 shortlist， 然后发给这个学生哈。然后呢，此外的话呢，对的，我们其实第一节课的我们的 assignment 就是说，你选了这个夏校之后的话呢，因为我们不想喂给学生这个夏校。好，那也就是说，我希望你 come up with a reason why you choose this one instead of another one。那也就是说，其实这个是让他们自己去思考，他甚至需要去做一个自己比较就是 throughout 的这么一个 research， 包括这个夏校他上什么样的课，他的老师是谁，对吧？可能他或者是你甚至是 YouTube 和 Reddit 上面关于这一个夏校的一些评论，我觉得这些都是一个很好的方式，让孩子去真正的 figure out。我到底适不适合这个夏校？那其实这样的一个方法论呢，在以后我们去 research college 的时候，照样是适用的。对，
适用的。还有个问题是中文的 ，Alison， 你看一下。
YG 申请了，我们现在，请问现在芝加哥 YYGS 的夏校已经申请了吗？YYGS 是开始申请了，然后。
但是它有好几轮，它后面的对它有好几轮，所以还有足够多的 opportunity 可以去申。对，
你可以，
它只是第一轮过了。对，
刚刚也有家长在问我，他说我现在 YYGS 的这个我们说文书哈写的已经差不多了，但是因为像包括我们还有几位老师，因为我们现在实在是太忙了，在赶这个早生哈，所以真的是没有太多的时间和精力，就是说从现在开始开这个课。但如果你的文书已经差不多的情况下的话呢，我可能可以优先让文书老师先给你看文书，因为你已经知道你要申请哪个夏校了，对吧？那你之后你可能再来上一个 group class， 或者继续把你剩下的文书再继续做掉。这个也是一种方式和方法，所以我们 case by case， 特殊情况我们看看能不能特殊处理。Cindy， 你觉得呢？
非常好，对的。像芝加哥的夏校不用着急，芝加哥的夏校还有很长的时间可以升，只不过呢，你早一点升呢，你比较能够升到你想要的那个 track。比如说，因为我知道像 Chicago 的 Summer Immersion 跟那个布朗的夏校，它都是早升的时候，它有一些 course 特别 popular， 还有 Georgetown 一样的，你升的晚就可能没有，所以我们这个时间是非常合适的，大家不会 miss 掉。OK， 好小令他问的问题就是说，我们这个早生营有没有英文介绍？我们有这个英文的 program 介绍。还有英文的 curriculum 到时候需要的话，您加一下 Jennifer 的微信我们都可以把英文版发给孩子，让孩子做决定哈。尤其高年级的孩子，我们非常理解，家长想让他上，必须孩子点头才行。OK， 小令 ，Is this what you're looking for? We do have the program overview in English, and we also have the curriculum overview in English. Yeah, make sure Charlene, you scan Jennifer's WeChat and she can send that to you. All right. So let's see. Okay, yeah, that's the end. Well, thank you everybody for your time and enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening. And hopefully we'll see some of your kids in our 夏校实习早申营. Okay. 感谢 Alison. Thank you so much for our honored speakers, Demmy, Lily, and Kristie, especially those in the East Coast already 10 p.m. Thank you, everyone. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.